First of all, I'd like to say I am not against EVs. I think they're a great vehicle for a lot of people, commuting, whatnot. I think they're really a great option, and we need to be open-minded about them. All right, guys, let's talk about a little bit of a controversial subject. How about let's talk about EV fires? And a lot of people are getting more concerned about this, and a lot of people are not concerned at all. And there is actually, statistically, according to the so-called experts, more internal combustion engine fires than there are EV fires. This is a concern to me, okay? When I see this happening, and even though the numbers are very low, let's talk about why that might be. This one happened a day ago in Fresno. And the reason that they're making the news is because they're really hard to put out. And they're actually really environmentally hazardous. The fumes from them are really pretty bad, and they burn longer. So a lot of people say, well, they're less often, so they don't burn as much. They don't put as much into the atmosphere as ice fires. Okay, and there's an argument on both sides of this. Let's talk about it. One of the things that I'm seeing more often is, you see here, this is a car that's in a garage on fire. So it actually took down the house or the garage with it. A lot of times they take down the whole house because they can't get the fire put out because it's burning so hot. It takes so much more water to put out. And by the time they get there, it's burning really hot. They can't get close to it. And it usually takes down the whole house or most of it. Now, if you look statistically, ice fires happen on, number one, on older vehicles. When you're talking about electric car fires, I've seen people with an electric car that's 6 months old that just randomly catches fire or gets in a car accident and catches fire. So the thing is, they catch fire in different places than the ice fires. Ice fires usually happen when you're driving down the road. Maybe the catalytic converter gets hot, or there's an electrical problem while you're driving, and all of a sudden the car catches fire. It's very rare that a internal combustion engine fire happens spontaneously in a garage. It just doesn't happen very often. But with these electric cars, it's more common that they happen when they're sitting. So this is a worry to me. So like cars that are inside a parking structure charging, and you've got 5 or 6 of them together, and all of a sudden one of them catches fire. Now 5 or 6 are burning and potentially going to catch the rest of the parking structure on fire. The fire sprinklers that they have are not enough water to put them out. The fire sprinklers are designed around ice fires, which take a lot less water to put out, that we have in our parking structures. And in some places in Europe, like in England or in the UK, they don't even have fire sprinklers as code. So it's really kind of weird that they don't have that. If you look here, the Plinker's still on this electric car. Let me back up a second. It's pretty weird. You see this, right? Look at that. It's still flashing. So there's still power inside the thing. And as long as there's still power in there, it could all of a sudden just flare up again. So they've got to take it out. Sometimes they have to put it in, dunk it underwater. It's a pretty big environmental hazard when one of these things catches fire, because now they've got to dunk it in water for a while. What do they do with the water? There's a lot of concern about this, even though, yeah, they're very rare, but when they happen, it's pretty significant. Another concern is when they get in a car accident and they catch fire from that. And if the doors and things like that are badly damaged, it's very difficult to get the people out of the car. And the fire spreads very quickly. It gets very hot. Is it really a safety hazard? Here, look at your comments below. if it's really something that you think is a big problem. And the other thing is the fire trucks don't have enough water on them, and they can't carry enough water to put one out. So if there's a car accident and the EV catches fire, because it has a short or something like that, and even though, yeah, the batteries are supposed to be disabled when they get in accidents, they've been having a lot of them that get in an accident catch fire because there's a lot of voltage in there. Personally, I'm not against EVs. I think they're a great option for a lot of people that are commuters and such. But this concern about these fires, I think really we need to address and really take a look at, because, these cars are less than a year old. Now let's talk about this. Cars that are less than a year old catch fire. Now tell me how many ice fires happen on vehicles that are less than a year old. Typically, the cars that I've seen on the side of the road that are on fire, okay, when it happens, are older cars. They're cars 20, 30 years old, 40 years old, and they're just malmaintained and they catch fire. The EVs that we're seeing catch fire are sometimes 6 months old. A guy just said, I just bought the car. I was watching another video. I just bought the car and it was a brand new Tesla. It was 2 or 3 months old. And he had to kick the glass out to get out of the car because he didn't know where the handle was. If you see here, the whole house burnt down on this one too. So, but yeah, see, look at that. Just burnt a hole in the house. Done. It's over. So the Tesla has electric door locks, which I don't understand why they didn't put a push rod and have a manual door lock. And people go, well, it has a cable door lock and it's a manual door lock, but it's not the normal one you use all the time. And when you're in an emergency situation, your car's on fire, you've gotten in a car accident, are you really going to, remember where that thing is? There's a lot of people, it hasn't been happening. They know where the lock is. They know that it's there, but they've forgotten because they're in an accident situation. They're in a traumatic situation and they don't remember where that thing is. They end up trying to kick the glass out. Or let's say you're a passenger in the car. So in order to be a passenger in a Tesla, should I have to go and read the manual before I get in it? So I know exactly where that door lock is before I get, in the car. I mean, come on. It's just, to me, that whole concept is ridiculous. They should have one door handle that is manually operated, that's not electric, that you have to get out of the car no matter what. I don't know any other car that has that sort of thing. Wow, what is that? Was that like a EV that blew the door off of the building? That is weird. Watch that again for a second. Boom. I mean, what was that? Interesting. In Colorado. I don't know. Another thing we should be looking at, what's the environmental impact of these fires? Are they the toxins, compared to ice fires? And let's say, these cars are relatively new to, society, and you've got ones that are less than a year old to catch fire. So what about when they're 20 years old, like the other ice cars are? Is there going to be more fires from them as they get older? Because that's what's happening in internal combustion engines. You rarely ever see, I wonder what the statistics are on that. I'm sure that statistically, the EVs are catching fire more often per capita on a car that's less than a year old than a car that's less than a year old that's ice. Because I rarely have ever seen a brand new car that's less than a year old catch fire anywhere. I mean, I've driven all over the place and I've seen a lot of car fires in my lifetime, but they're almost always an older car. So you know, are we really looking at the statistics the right way? Are we just kind of making them up to meet our idealism of electric cars? I mean, right here, San Francisco, lithium-ion battery fires up 142%. New York up 633%. You know, this is a problem to me. This is something that we need to really look at. And, you know, I'm not saying, you know, that we should quash all battery cars, but I'm just saying that I think we should all be pretty aware and be alert of what the potential of these kind of fires are. How dangerous are they for the environment? You know, is this really a greener option putting these type of cars into the earth? I mean, they take, you know, it takes, I think it's 500,000 tons of dirt to make a full-size car battery. That's a lot of child labor and dirt, you know, to make them, you know. So is it, when you have all of that up front emissions from getting all that stuff out of the ground, is it really a net positive in the end? You know, and, you know, there's arguments on that. I'd like to see what you guys have to say on it. And that was from CBS on the statistics in San Francisco and New York. This guy here says 3 days after he had a crash, it caught fire. I mean, wow, you know, parked electric vehicles destroyed by fire outside La Habra. I mean, parked. You know, how often do you see a parked car that just spontaneously combusts that's not electric? You know, honestly, I don't. You know, if you're a fireman, be sure to comment this. We'd like to hear from you. I just don't see that happening. You know, not one just sitting there. Not one just sitting there doing nothing, all of a sudden it just catches fire. But it seems to happen in the EV world. Now, this is the concern that I have as well, is when there's cars in multiples. Now, in this case, this was in Dearborn, whatever, Michigan. If you guys might have heard of this, it was the trucks that caught fire, the Ford Lightning trucks. And 3 of them burnt before they were able to put it out. Now, this was an outside fire. Now, take that same heat that's from those trucks right there and put it into a parking structure where they have limited access to get in there. You know, the fire trucks can't get close to it. You know, you've got multiple other cars in there, and you've got 5 or 6 electric vehicles charging right next to each other, and the heat from those things is so hot that it starts the other vehicles on fire, and now you've got a situation. You know, there's that Luton Airport fire that happened. They said it's not was not an electric car. I don't know. Somebody said that the tag from the car, they looked it up. I really have a hard time believing that that was an electric car fire. I mean, they could have been, because like I said, it happened after the car was stopped. You know, usually when the particulate filter plugs up, it happens while the car's being driven and not while it's just sitting there, you know, or they would have known it was happening. They probably could have got it put out pretty easily if it was not a battery. But when it's a battery, you know, they're literally almost impossible to put out, even if you have one of those little fire extinguishers or the or you know, one of those things in the wall in one of the parking structures with the hose, and you're going to put it out. You're probably not going to get that sucker put out. But if it was diesel or gas, and you could put it out pretty quickly. I mean, I've had a couple of car fires. You know, I had a car fire in my truck. It caught fire from something that shorted out on the dash, and I grabbed the hose. And in fact, it was sitting there smoldering for a while which a battery, if it was smoldering at all, it would immediately catch fire. Unlike my truck, it smoldered for a while. I knew it was the guy came in the house. Actually went into the house to work, came out. And the guy goes, "Hey man, I think your truck's on fire." And I walk over to it, and there's smoke coming out of the dash. And I ran over, grabbed the hose, and put it out. Could that happen? Now they're going to statistically call that a fire, a vehicle fire. I put it out in a couple minutes before the fire department even got there. So that was statistically a fire, okay? But it wasn't a big deal. Wow, when a EV fire, every single one of them is a big deal. Every single one of them, the car's catastrophically burned. I was talking to my insurance agent, and some people say, well, your insurance is going to be higher with an EV, your house insurance, or they're going to cancel you for having your car charger. That's not true. I called my insurance agent, and he said that my house, if I had an EV, the premium doesn't go up, and it covers me charging the car in the garage. They even have charge for the car, somehow, whatever. But if you have car insurance for my car, it's covered for the charger and all this other stuff I was talking to him about. I don't know the exact details, but it's all covered. But he did mention to me that EV coverage for your car insurance is quite a bit higher. And I think that's because when the car, let's say you get in a fender bender. This guy said he had a fire 3 days after he got in an accident. Let's say you got in a fender bender in your Tesla. They're required to bring that car back up to the condition it was in before the car got in an accident. So, has the battery been damaged? Do you know? You don't know. Has the casing been cracked that the batteries are in? Should it be taken apart and inspected? A guy got a small dent in a Rivian truck, and it was $40,000 to repair it because really was the way they built it. What I'm trying to say is these electric cars, when you get in an accident, who's going to stand behind and say that thing's not going to catch fire? Who's going to stand behind it and say that, the battery wasn't damaged? These are just all the questions that I have, is it, a thing? These are pretty new. These are fairly new these cars that are just burnt to the ground like this are brand new cars. They're a year, 2 years old. Like I said, statistically, look at how old the cars are that are catching on fire that are ice. Look at the age. They're a lot older. I know that for sure. I don't have statistics on it. I don't even know if we can find them. If you do, of course, you can comment those things below. This lady, this car here I was looking at, she actually, this was a loaner car, and she brought it home and didn't plug it in or anything, just plugged it in, just brought it in the garage, and sure enough, it caught fire just spontaneously. Brand new car, less than a year old, burnt to the ground inside her garage, burnt her house down. Lovely. And there's arguments about this. Guys are going, oh, well, it's the new battery technology is better than the old. Well, this was a brand new car right here, guys, 3 months ago. And the newest battery technology from Mercedes. I'm going to say Mercedes probably on it. They probably got a pretty darn good battery system in it, and a good controller, and it caught fire. And you got here the Luton car park that caught fire. I don't know. There's people that say it was a diesel car, but nobody's really coming forward and saying, okay, this particular car with this license plate number on it and all this other stuff was definitely a diesel non-hybrid car. When if you look at this thing here, where the fire starts is on the left front where the battery would be in a hybrid, underneath the driver's seat floor. So
who was there said that they saw
the guy tried to put it out with a fire extinguisher and he was unsuccessful. And if it was a normal ice fire, he probably should have been able to put that out. But he wasn't able to. So it makes me really question that. I don't know, was it, and they say, well, no, based on the tag that was on there, the license plate number, it wasn't, it's just, I don't know. I wonder why some people are trying to protect the electric car thing. Let's be honest about it. Is it a problem? Is it not? Let's see your comments on it. Now, this is the guy who has had his car 3 months, I think it was. No, this is a different one. And this is a different one. And he bought this because he thought it was safer. And he's questioning that now. And, I would be questioning it if my car caught fire just randomly driving down the road, didn't do anything to it, didn't run over anything, nothing happened. Just all of a sudden, car just catches fire, and then burns to the ground. And the cops or the fire department can't put it out. They don't have enough water on their trucks. They just had to let it burn. That's it, and sat there for a while, just watched the whole thing burn because they can't put it out. They don't have enough water on their truck to put it out. And, they can't carry more water. Should we put, fire? Just think of how much money and time and environmental waste it would take to put fire hydrants along the freeway. Should we have to do that because we're going to have a society of electric cars? And, is this really the right way to go? Even in Germany now, they added in, they figured out a range is going to be a problem when they're carrying a lot of weight. When you have heavy trucks, range is becoming an issue. They've actually allowed, in their new law, they've just allowed it to have a synthetic fuel. Well, Volkswagen was working on a product called Blue Crude. And Blue Crude is a synthetic diesel made with water and air. It has very low environmental impact. And they're looking at it to figure out what, and they're looking at that as another option for the heavy trucks. Could you imagine if this was a big commercial truck that caught fire with one of these almost 1 megawatt battery that's in there, and those things to run that much weight, or when it's charging at the charging station and there's 5 of them together. Is this something that we need to look at, guys? I'm just, just throwing it out there. Let me know what you think. I'd like to see your comments on it. It's just, it's something that I'm kind of looking at, concerned with, and I'd like to hear your comments. Anyway, those are things that I want to, bring up in this. I thought maybe you'd be interested in. And if you're an EV owner, listen, I'm not against EVs. I think they're great. They're great for commuters. I personally don't have one. I don't have a need for it. My range things are too much more, and it wouldn't make sense for me to get rid of a good car and then go and waste it to get myself an EV, which I'm going to make more environmental waste to get up front to limit myself in range. So anyway, that's why I haven't got one. But they're great if you're commuting back and forth to work. I think they're a great option for a vehicle. Other than what I'm seeing here, should we have inside parking for these? A lot of the Tesla charging stations are in parking structures. Should they have that? Is that safe? Anyway, I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Just like to see your input. Thanks.